Perfect. Well, great. It's wonderful to have you all with us. Thanks again for joining us. If you need any assistance in Spanish, please contact Julissa Puello, and she can help you with that. When Ed and I are here, and so is Susan Baxt, our Director of Outreach and Marketing, and Kate Olson, our Operations Manager. I believe Sade Martinez is also on the line, our Director of Inclusion, and she also leads our Family Engagement Task Force. Julissa Puello will also be on listening and supporting our Spanish-speaking families, but she's won't be speaking with us today. We're kind of assuming that you all have either attended the big town hall that went on for quite some time recently, last week, or you listened to the recording. So we're just having another informal chance to do some Q&A with you all, hear your questions in the chat. If you do need to go off mute and pose them because you're on by phone, or I think Kate gave those directions. But we thought we would do just an initial overview of just the program as we see it now, and give you, and just sort of reiterate what it's really, how we think the hybrid program is going to look, as well as remote. And we thank you all so much for having completed the surveys so that we can plan. There's so much involved in ensuring the health and safety and academic and social well-being of our kids and our staff. So we'll just do a quick overview. You guys are always on our mind, and as you heard last time, we always just like to show pictures with such nostalgia for being together and being in the bug space and out in the bugs gardens. You've also been on our minds because we know that our families have been through so much. About 20% of our families have experienced loss of loved ones due to COVID, and a lot of our families are facing about 50% of financial hardships and job loss, as well as mental health challenges. And so we really are here for you guys the best we can at this time. Our opening priorities for opening the school, of course, is health and safety first and foremost. We're trying to design a program that's also really flexible so that we can easily go in and out of remote and hybrid options, and whether it's the school going from hybrid to remote and remote to hybrid, or even full-time maybe one day, but then also any individual family or student who needs to, whether because you've opted to go remote, or you are going through a quarantine period or something like that. We want it to be really seamless for our staff and our students as much as possible. It's a scheduling challenge, but Wynette and Tiffany have done a really amazing job continuing to innovate and tweak on that scheduling. We really have to have engaging learning first and foremost. That is what we are here for, and now more than ever, making sure that it's engaging and it's what matters most for the kids. And we also are focusing on their social emotional learning, trauma-informed practices. Sustainability is always at everything we do, and equity is, as we know, it's more important now more than ever with the stresses of our certain conditions. Return to school design is informed by feedback from all of our stakeholders, as always. Our reentry task force, who I really have to get back to. Thank you guys. I know we need to reconnect, and we will. Other task forces, as I mentioned, and a lot of research, a lot of webinars, a lot of continuous updating that doesn't stop. And that's what's really important here, is that we remain nimble, we remain informed, and we remain connected. So we're navigating these logistics and trying to keep the big picture in mind while we're being really creative and trying to, make happen what we can. So there's sort of 3 phases as we see for reentering. So the school is going to reopen remote learning only. So I hope you all know August 31st is orientation for new students, and September 1st is for returning students. It's really going to be exciting. I can't get over what our director of math, and Dean Damian have put together for the kids. It's remote, but it's pretty awesome. Then in phase 2, we start our in-school learning. That is after Labor Day weekend on September 9th or 10th, is it, Wynette? I'm sorry, I forget.
It is the 9th.
9th, thank you. Okay, great. That's the Tuesday after Labor Day, is that right?
I believe it's the Wednesday.
Wednesday, okay. September 9th is when we start. You finish the week of student orientation, and we sort of come back with regular, in-school learning on that September 9th date. And the earliest we think that we can open, and we're really evaluating this closely, of course, looking at facility conditions, health conditions, and the ability of our community to be ready and be healthy and safe. That the earliest would be October 5th. I will let you know as soon as we can if that date is going to change. And also, you need to know that date because we do ask that all staff and families, they do need to be sort of not in a high risk area in the country, before they, if they're coming in to do hybrid, and staff are coming in. So that start date is important for all your plans, and that's a piece of that consideration. And then phase 3 is the student and teachers return full-time to the school building. Imagine that. And we dream of that day. We hope of that day. And you got arrows going forward. You got arrows going back. You could go to phase 2 and back to 1. You could go to 3, back to 1. You could go to 1 to 2, 1 to 3. But there's probably going to be a lot of 1 to 2 going on. I imagine. We know that remote learning is going to be a big part of next year, as much as we also are committed to a hybrid launch when everyone is ready. We know that because of social distancing, you're still only going to be in class in school for 2 days out of 3, and we may have to continually toggle back to remote. So that's remote learning is something that we do a really good job with, and we really want to. And we're always looking to improve the kids' experience. So the school day is pretty much 8 to 4. There will be some early dismissal days. Stay tuned. They are unique to your the grade and schedule. We are still tweaking the schedule. Wynette can address any questions about that further. We do take student attendance, so that's something that's really important to keeping the kids engaged. We have all the core classes that are being provided. The enrichments shift from time to time as we do refine our scheduling. Wynette can address that as well. And we will have an after-school program that will adapt to hybrid program as well through IACRL and student lunch clubs as well. So remote learning, maybe this is where you kind of take over, Wynette, if you want to go into this language a little bit.
Sure.
And then we can get some questions. Just tell me when to change slides.
Okay. So as you see, Susan's projecting, we have synchronous days, we have asynchronous days, and present is pretty much when you are in the building. So for the synchronous days, we did a really great job prior to the summer of teaching synchronously. Most of our classes were taught synchronously. We did end up putting in some asynchronous days wherein kids had a more self-directed schedule. They logged in, they filled out an attendance form, and they did whatever task or assignments their teachers placed in Google Classroom. For the fall, we have 4 days of instruction for every core subject, and most of that will be taught synchronously during remote time. Teachers will, of course, recommend, hey, stay for the lesson, log off, complete your work, and log back on. We've learned that that is a practice that works well for some of our students. Some of our students choose to stay in the meet, but that's typically what the synchronous lesson looks like when the teachers are giving live instruction. Most of our instruction will be synchronous during remote. Mondays are dedicated asynchronous times. The entire day wouldn't be asynchronous because some of our enrichment classes are happening on Monday. I believe in every grade at this point, there are at least 2 synchronous enrichment classes happening throughout the day. So students really have to pay attention to their Monday schedule to know when they have to log on for a class. Advisory will be every day in the morning, first thing from 8:30. So some of you asked the question, you know, is the day starting at 8 o'clock? For everybody, it's an early day. Once we switch to hybrid, the day starts at 8 o'clock if you are going into the building. So we have A days and B days, and if you are going into the building, your arrival time and breakfast time is between 8 and 8:30. But for remote, your day starts at 8:30 online. You log on for your advisory at 8:30. Can you switch slides, Susan? So lessons we learned, you've heard some of this, like we're really good at it, I think. We all think our teachers are very dedicated to doing their jobs well. So our tech team did a lot of PD both last spring and during our staff orientation this week, and there'll be more going on throughout the school year, throughout next week as we prepare. We've learned how to do synchronous classes pretty well. And that's what we do the most of. We've learned that breaking up the schedule is something that works for our students to get some downtime, to just kind of have a freer flow by adding in asynchronous days. We've also learned how to do breakout rooms really well so that they can have small group instruction and building relationships. We've done circles during class time so that students have a chance to share how they're feeling, what they're experiencing, ask questions, things like that. Also in advisory. We are still including our arts and enrichment classes as much as we can and being very flexible. The schedule is quite an interesting task to undertake, and figuring out how to make it flow seamlessly between remote and hybrid has been sometimes enjoyable and sometimes like the biggest brain tease you could ever imagine. But we are really working hard to have a flexible schedule that is going to be, consistent for our students. We learned in the spring, having a consistent schedule is something that made remote learning very manageable for our students. So we are really working to have a schedule that will be flexible for whatever situation presents itself. So some changes, we are adding our Sustainability 101, 102, and 103 class across grade levels. Prior to this school year, we had it only in the 6th grade. So now every grade has it. We do not have advancement groups, and we are still working to see how we can build a few other things in terms of algebra and maybe SHSATs into our schedule. More to come on that. And our ICT classes will still exist. This is how it is different between remote and hybrid. During remote learning, most of our classes will still be co-taught. Kids will meet with their cohorts. So if you're in class 601, all of the students in class 601 will be meeting with their entire class and their 2 teachers during remote learning. They will have breakout rooms, they will have small groups, but overall it is with their entire class. During hybrid, that class will be split into an A group and a B group. A groups are students who come to school on Tuesday and Thursday, and B groups are students who come to school on Wednesday and Friday. There will also be an R group, and that's students who have chosen remote learning only. And if you are in an R group, you will join any class that is happening on an A day or any class that is happening on a B day. What that means for the students is that they will have multiple teachers per subject. So they might see one of their math teachers on Monday and a different math teacher on Tuesday. Still, it's the co-teachers, but just one on Monday and one on Tuesday. They will not have the same math teacher every single day. So thank you, Susan, for moving that along.
Well, I just thought I'd share this. This is kind of the visual maybe to what you were just trying to describe. Yeah.
Yeah. So all of the groupings are based on your responses to the family survey, as well as the requirements for social distancing and the size of the group and the size of the space that we have available. So,
and the ICT, the gen ed and special education balance,
yes.
Right?
Yes. So there's a lot of different, we've tried to accommodate as much as we can family requests, but we have a lot to consider. So please bear with us. If you've sent a request, we will definitely do our best to make it work. I know a lot of that has to do with childcare or just students who've been in elementary school together and would like to be in the same group, to have someone they know and someone they're comfortable with. And we are taking all of your requests into consideration. So as you see, Tuesday, Thursday, A days, Wednesday, Friday, B days. One task that families will have is to review schedules very, very carefully with students so they actually know when they're supposed to log on. Some of our enrichment classes, as I said before, and a few other classes are not always going to meet as a full cohort, and they're not always going to be on the same day, either remote or hybrid. It's just going to be split. So students have to be careful in looking at their schedules and getting to know their schedules really well. I just came out of an orientation meeting, and I know that is part of the plan to help students navigate their schedules on Teacheries during orientation so they know what to expect come September 9th.
And I'm sure their advisors will really help them with that too.
Yes. So
it sounds like there are a lot of questions, just so you know, about, Susan was just kind of chiming in about the start times for, I think, remote and hybrid and sort of the difference there.
Yeah, I said that before, but I will repeat. So as you can see on this schedule that Susan is presenting, and then this is a sample schedule. This is not not what your child will get. But if we go into hybrid, our school day starts at 8 o'clock. If you are a student arriving on an A day, you have between 8 and 8:30 to arrive to school, get to your classroom, have breakfast if you choose, but the start time is at 8 o'clock. If you are actually a student on Tuesday that is in a B group, your day starts at 8:30. You don't wake up and do anything at 8 o'clock. You stay at home, have your breakfast, and log on at 8:30 for advisory. If it is a B day for you and you are in the building, you have to arrive to school between 8 and 8:30 to get to class and have breakfast. On a B day, the A student logs on at 8:30. So it depends on whether during hybrid you're in the building or not.
Can you just address since we're launching remote only, the schedule for orientation and when the academic program also starts at on the 9th? When does the day start and what's
the
that
day
schedule?
Starts at 8:30 on the 9th. Students log on for advisory at 8:30. So until we actually launch a hybrid program, the day starts at 8:30.
Great.
Dean Damian and Mr. W will be sending out more information regarding the schedule for orientation. Unfortunately, I do not have that information to share.
Great. Awesome.
Any other questions I can answer before I go off again on my spiel?
Do you want to chime in, Kay and Susan, with anything specifically on that? I think we definitely want to go through these hybrid essentials. Is there more that we want to go into remote remote learning. I know we covered this. You talked about we didn't quite get to that long block for staff grade team meetings for increased coordination and field study planning, but that's also a really great addition to this school year, a commitment that we have to really make sure that the grade team is thinking about the workload of all the students and also coordinating the curriculum and the project work to be, again, really meaningful and interesting to work on field study planning, both independent field study that kids can do remotely on their own, as well as if we are in the hybrid situation, doing it together.
Yes. Any questions, Kay or Susan, that I can answer?
Not for me so far. I know Susan Bax is also tracking them.
Okay.
Maybe we'll go into the hybrid schedule essentials and see if that touches on a lot of what.
Yeah,
folks
sure.
need.
I do want to say that the remote learning schedule sort of more closely resembles, from a day-to-day perspective, what being in school would be like. So hybrid essentials. Students are in class twice a week, learning remotely 3 days out of the week. So again, if you're in an A group, you're in school on Tuesday and Thursday. Wednesday and Friday are synchronous learning days, meaning you have live lessons with your teachers. Teachers can also plan for field study during a couple of those days. And Monday is the asynchronous day for everyone, when you have a couple of enrichment classes, and then a portion of your day is more self-guided, where you can log on, finish work. If there are any new assignments that your teacher has posted, or even do your field study assignment, because I know during remote learning, field study assignments will be on Monday, and they're mostly self-guided, so students can log on, or better yet, not log on and go out where appropriate and complete those field study assignments. During hybrid, the typical class size is between 10 and 14 students, again, based on a lot of data that we've collected and the need for social distancing and social emotional supports and everything.
I will just jump in and address the fact that we have larger classrooms than some of the typical DOE spaces. So that's why we're able to accommodate a few more kids. We have larger classes. Not all of our classrooms are that large, but many are.
Yeah, so this is where the ICT model shifts. So if you are in 601 and you're 601A, 601B, 601R, in hybrid, 601A is in class, let's say getting a reading lesson with their reading teacher, one of their reading teachers, while 601B and 601R are getting that lesson remotely from the other reading teacher. So it is still ICT, it is just in it's a different setup. It will be by the smaller group rather than the larger group. We still have the two teachers. We are still providing the same lessons as much as we can at the same time. And that is how the groups will work. For students in the building, teachers still have to maintain 6 feet of distance between them and the students. So where a teacher could typically maybe lean over a student's shoulder to provide support, it is at a distance. They might be able to sit at a kidney table 6 feet apart and work one-on-one, but the distance requirements still remain. There is no group work. Students cannot huddle in a group to complete any type of group assignments. They are in the same classroom all day, except for the opportunities that we may have to have class outside. And even with the spacing that we have, that will be by whatever schedule we have to develop, so classes can have some kind of equal amount of time in our outdoor spaces. Masks will have to be worn all day long except for lunch. When students are finished eating, they will be required to put their mask back on. We are going to stagger entrances to be determined based on what's available to us when we go, get closer to that time. Uniforms are required on site, or if we have off-site field study at any time. Recess will be in the classrooms. Again, students will be required to maintain their distance from each other for safety. And we are looking into outdoor spaces for classes, and we are looking into ways that we can have field study days, but these same requirements will apply. There will be no huddling. Even if we go out, they still have to maintain 6 feet of distance between them. They still will have to wear their masks and so on, whether we're in the classroom or not.
And they have to stay in those same groups. The main focus here in all of this complicated scheduling is that there's never an intermingling of these different groups. So if you're in 601A, you will never be merged with 602A, and you will never be, if you're off in a field study and someone's in a remote and is also in 601, but only attends remote classes, they cannot join you for field study. And again, this is for to reduce exposure and for contact tracing purposes, and really to just keep things more isolated. Yes, the teachers will cycle in and out, but they have shorter exposure, and we're not combining the kids. We're reducing as much exposure as possible while meeting the needs of the kids. So to be frank, we know that we will make this the best it can be, but it's not necessarily ideal. It is a long day. It is in one room. It is with one teacher.
Well, the teachers rotate, so they will
get. That's one teacher at a time. So there's not a lead and assist. Right. Exactly. I'm sorry. It's with exactly. Thank you for
also on at least one of their days in the building, they have an early dismiss. So by early dismiss, I believe it's 3 o'clock. So at least one day, students are dismissed at 3, each group. It's not going to be, for some grades, it's a different sort of dismissal. And again, this is where paying attention to your schedule is really important. It is very hard to line everything up exactly the same when we are working with all of these different groups. Plus, it's important to stagger some of the dismissals so that all of the kids aren't congregating outside of the building at the same time. So there is some shortening of the school day here and there. It'll become clearer once we're able to share out schedules, and we hope to do that hopefully by the end of next week.
Wynette, this is Sade. Could you revisit the lunchtime? There's a question about lunch and having that in the classroom and how we'll handle that.
So pretty much it is the same as what the class would look like. Students will have their lunch in the same seat that they are assigned to. They will eat their lunch. They can take off their masks to eat their lunch. They have to put their masks back on to dispose of their garbage. Once they get out of their seats, they have to be wearing their masks. And after that, they can engage in, unfortunately, solitary activity in the classroom for recess.
We can do throughout the day. We have a partnership with Brain Power and have explored different exercises that you can kind of do that are lighter, light activity. So sort of more isolated light activity it's nothing that would require 12 feet distancing, but to kind of keep the mind alert and keep the body moving. We do know that yes, we'll need to stretch and stand and do different things to really make sure that our adolescents are healthy and alert. During the lunchtime, we will be delivering the school food in a prepackaged way to the school, to each class. Yeah, and so those are some more details about lunch. At
this time, there is no outdoor recess.
Mm-hmm. All right. Sade, is there anything else that you wanted to address with families? I know we also have Jess on the line too that could talk briefly about our outdoor and field study plans before we take more questions.
Hi, Susan. I don't have anything else to add. I think going through the slides and then just taking time to really zone in on parents' questions was really helpful. And then, of course, me personally appreciate as a director of inclusion and, heading the family engagement task force, I appreciated you guys kind of going into what the ICT will look like. The fact that we will still have ICT, but with the hybrid model, it will look different. And I really wanted to make sure our parents understood that. And I think we did that. So I'm fine on my end. Thank you.
Okay, great. And anything else?
To answer the question about no outdoor recess, because it is a shared space and we have so many more groups, scheduling outdoor recess is a very difficult task and may not really fit into the schedule.
I want to call him with any requests. I think he called from Tina.
Wynette, it's hard to hear you. Sorry.
Oh, why? I haven't done anything different.
That's better. That's better now.
Okay. All right. I lean forward. So I was saying there isn't the time or the space in the schedule with all of the groups and the other schools that we share the facility with to accommodate outdoor recess. Some of the spaces that we have may also be used as classroom spaces outdoors. So those are things that we are still working on. It's not in the schedule at this moment. It doesn't mean that things couldn't change in the future, but it is not something that we have a plan for immediately.
Hey, Wynette. This is Jess Kwaja, Director of Sustainability. So yes, it is an issue that there are challenges to scheduling outdoor recess. And part of our response to that is making sure that at least once a day, science and sustainability classes are taking students out for field study. This is in addition to the full day or half day of field study that we're building into the schedule. So I see parents talking about Greenwood Cemetery, Prospect Park, even the Brooklyn Zoo. Those are partners that we're working with to make this happen. But yeah, absolutely. It's key that students are able to move, get fresh air, speak to each other while maintaining 6 feet, and we're building it into the regular school day.
Susan mentioned the Brain Power program. Brain Power is a program that I just want to explain what it is. It's a program that we tried last year for the first time, and a huge part of it is building in those opportunities throughout the school day in any classroom that you might be in for students to either independently recognize when they need a break or for the teachers to recognize when the students need a break. There are lots of movement activities within the program that can happen in the space that you are in, sitting in a chair, standing by your desk, just even some simple finger flexing types of activities that's built in a lot of SEL so students can gather themselves if things become overwhelming for them. So we are very invested in building some of that into our program this year because we definitely recognize that students need to move, students need to have support for this traumatic time that they're experiencing. School doesn't look like school anymore, even if they feel that they want to be there, it's very different. So within our curriculum planning, teachers are considering all of the ways that social emotional supports can be built in throughout the school day. Our dean and the Office of Student Affairs team, they're also building in ways that they can support in making sure that students do not become overwhelmed by the way school will look during hybrid and what the experience can be, and to try to make it as positive an experience within the parameters that we now have to navigate as much as possible.
Yeah, I made a list here.
Susan, do you want to move forward?
I could ask Busy to call.
Are there any questions that we didn't answer yet, Kay or Susan?
There have been some questions about orientation. If it's going to be online, is it so necessary? Is it mandatory? What's it going to be like? So maybe you guys could talk a little bit about that. I know a lot of information will be coming, but you might want to get, it's going to be so awesome and amazing, and maybe, you know, it'd be great for parents to hear about it.
Yes. So orientation is a part of the school year. It is necessary for students to be there. It is part of their attendance. If they are not there, they will be marked absent. It is all remote. Some of it is synchronous and some of it is asynchronous. It's through a platform, and Jess, please jump in and explain Classcraft because you can do it much better than I can. It is through a program called Classcraft, and students will be actually engaging in a quest that will help them navigate some of the platforms that we use at Bugs, some of the systems that are in place in terms of like class schedule, what advisory is all about. They will meet their advisors, they will meet their advisories, their cohort groups during orientation. They will learn about their schedules. We have a house system that we started last year. They will be placed in their houses during orientation. So there's a lot of really fun stuff planned for orientation, but a lot of it is to acclimate students to what the school year and remote learning will entail. So it's very important for them to actually be present for orientation. If there is a specific reason that a student cannot be present for orientation, it's important for you to let us know so that we can support them in catching up to whatever they might miss, and or make sure we provide videos of meets so they can catch up on all of that. Am I missing anything, Jess, Sade?
Actually, yeah, I'm
Oh.
sorry.
I just wanted
Go
to
ahead.
confirm that the orientation week, that whole week, the day ends at 1 p.m. You have had a few questions about that.
It is a 1 p.m. dismissal for that whole week, so it's not the full day.
Yeah,
Right.
let's put that schedule on we'll put it on the website and confirm these dates and times for these next few weeks.
Okay, and if I can just jump in, there was a question, do we really last until 1 p.m.? Yes, we do. We have a lot of different engaging and interactive things that the students will be doing, including, you know, getting to know you with teachers, advisors, and of course, students. There's all kinds of quests that are planned without me doing any spoiling of what's to come. So we do plan to stay until 1 p.m. during orientation week. And then also, Jennifer, resources to share with parents about trauma-informed education or training is to come. That's something that we have all been working hard to compile, and we'll have that available for you on the Bugs website. That should be linked into the Family Corner. If you click on For Families, and then there'll be a space there, Family Corner, and we'll have that available for you. So please continue to check back.
Hi, there's another question about considerations about how you'll assess whether school is safe for hybrid.
I can take that one. I think there's a lot of considerations here. One is that we want to make sure that the facility is ready, and we want to make sure that the people all involved here, all of our stakeholders, that includes you, your children, and our staff, are fully ready with our trained in our protocols and feeling comfortable even before they show up, as I've said before, to even know how to wait outside of the school building. In terms of the facility, we are still assessing the details of the ventilation system in the school. It has great windows. It is a relatively airy building, and we are still getting details and assessing the ventilation. We're also purchasing standalone additional ventilation units for each room that will provide additional protection there. Which units to purchase is still being researched, and a lot of what we're learning is constantly changing over time. But that's something that that we're really focused on is the ventilation system. So I want to make sure that that's really strong, and then we are, of course, with everything, we have to make sure all of the supplies are in. We've been working on this for a long time, but there's backlogs, there's different issues. We need to make sure that our custodial staff and everybody is all ready to go. But first and foremost, I think there's also, we need to make sure also that we have the training. We needed to kind of see what your results are and our staff results are for who's actually going to be present and able to supervise. The scheduling is really difficult to split up in these smaller groups and have, lunch supervised. Instead of it being in one space, it is now supervised in 12 different spaces. And all of the teachers, of course, need to take their lunch break. So there's a lot of challenges that we need to make sure that we have enough bodies really and the right bodies to supervise and be present. So that is something that we're still working out as we're having conversations with staff about what their needs are, as well as understanding from you all what your needs are in either being remote only or hybrid. So those are the things that are still being worked out. I think we're also looking to the Department of Education, who we share the space with, and would like some more coordination with them to have details on that around our staggered entries and exits and other shared spaces and details there. And there is, we can't do that by ourselves. So that's something that we're continuing to push on. And yeah, we're all kind of in it together. We all have to be ready. Bugs can make its own decisions, but we're still connected in this facility to other schools. So we have our eye on that as well.
Susan.
I think there are some questions about whether students who choose all remote can still participate in field studies, and how would that work? And then maybe you could also speak to cohorts and class groups, staying safe and separate.
I can address that. So with field study, they can do the sort of self-directed on your own field study, which is something that, just has launched and is an option that the teachers will be designing, but they can't, as I said before, they can't re-enter. We can't, even if it's socially distanced. One, we have ratios of supervision and we have staffing set up to have people supervising that properly. And we also can't be mixing the kids together at all. So that is, as we reiterated in the last session, it is a drawback to not having you don't have that option when you do remote only. Unfortunately, you can do things on your own, but you don't have that option. And then you asked, I think, also about just mixing up the cohorts. Yeah, they'll never the twain should meet. There will be, I imagine, some things that may come up with a staff person. We're trying to keep the staff incredibly separate. So if I'm just supervising I'm only in on a Tuesday and a Thursday, I would only be asked to cover lunch for a certain 6th grade section. But if I need to go and, there's an emergency or something else happens, we will and do what we need to do. But we are always trying to keep things as separate as possible. And that's part of the scheduling rub.
There was also a question, I think, from some parents about resources for them to support the curriculum. Might there be family trainings if you're thinking about that? I don't think anybody expects you to like have a schedule or anything, but if you just want to talk to
there's going to be a lot. I think everybody else can chime in here too, but there's a lot of exciting things that are being planned for families, both from the sort of boring and compliance, health and safety realm to the learning about different the apps and different things that your kids are doing, so that you can assist with that or just know about it if you want to, or and particularly if you want to access things on Google Classroom or you want to see grades on Teachers. But then there'll also be some exciting, we're going to have a curriculum night, and we'll have other kinds of family-facing trainings that will address, we want to do an overview on our sustainability approach so that you also have a foundational understanding of sustainability and that you can share and develop yourself. And all sorts of different things. I don't know if anyone of the other staff want to chime in.
Hey, I can chime in for a minute because I'm answering some questions in the chat about field study and outdoor learning. And for field, there are a couple of boundaries to our creativity here. Number one, public transportation or taking a bus to a field study site. We can't ask parents to use a different transportation route than they normally would to get to and from school, because that increases exposure. We can't ask our staff to do that as well. And we aren't going to use busing for obvious reasons. We have to remain socially distant. So that means that our options are limited to a 1-mile walking radius around the school when we have our field study days. Remote field study, we are creating experiences, so field study tasks and guiding questions for students to answer wherever they are. So they could be at their vacation home, they could be in their apartment, they could go to the park, they could go to the aquarium, wherever it may be. They will have the same questions as their classmates and same tasks to do. And we will share what those field study plans look like a little bit later on once we're finished planning them. So and there's always options for parents to take their students to different wildlife conservation society sites like the aquarium, the Bronx Zoo. We have tickets for that still. It's just about scheduling it on your own.
There are a few nuts and bolts questions about if you could talk to families who choose all remote learning, when they'll have the option to go back into hybrid. And if they go back into hybrid, how will they be integrated into the class system? Not the class system, but into the cohort or group.
So since we're starting off with remote learning, and Susan, you can jump in on when the specific times will be that families will be able to switch. But since we're starting off in remote learning now, and students will be joining, if you pick remote learning only and you're in, let's say, class 601, you will have class with all of your 601 teachers. You will have class with all of your 601 classmates on different days. So it's not necessarily that students wouldn't know who their cohort is during that time. When they would be integrated into the same class of class 601, and they will know the people there. So you can take some comfort in that it's not going to be you decide I want to go back to hybrid and you have to meet a whole different group of kids and make new friends. It will be the same people that you're interacting remotely with.
And then there are a couple of questions about when will families receive schedules, when will they know which group they're in, and can they make requests to be with former classmates or friends?
We are really getting down to the wire on rosters and schedules. Like, we've spent a lot of time working on the schedules. We are still making sure there aren't any kinks that we've missed in all of the planning. We hope to have schedules out by next week to families and students. We have taken into consideration many requests. We can look at more requests. We cannot guarantee, because there are a lot of other things that go into creating the class cohort, and like a lot of different demographic information and different needs of students. And we try to balance out as much as possible. This is a very unique situation for us to try to manage, and also try to accommodate requests. I'm going to say it again. We will try the best that we can to accommodate your request. You can send those to Jalissa, and she will let us know. And again, we will do our best because we do understand it from your perspective as well, and having students who are in the same group so that they can collaborate with each other is important. So yeah, that's that. So
And sorry, in the schedule, there were questions about will there be office hours, and I think returning parents were interested in knowing about the clubs, like when would National Junior Honor Society take place, student government. We could talk about that a little bit.
Unfortunately, we were not able to fit office hours into our schedule. We had to really weigh the options on what we could realistically prioritize. That is not to say, I'm just going to put this out there, that teachers do not voluntarily meet with students during their lunch breaks and any time that they can find. Because they're such small groups, it's so much easier for teachers to meet virtually one-on-one with students in breakout rooms. So that's not something that they will be missing per se. They will still have the opportunity to meet with teachers as needed in smaller groups within their classes. And sometimes on Mondays, they might be asked to meet with a teacher during their asynchronous time. So it's not something to rule out. It's just not formally built into the schedule. And I think I'm missing a part of the question. Can you remind me?
Yeah, about clubs. How will it work with clubs during remote learning, and then when we switch to remote learning hybrid? Will there still be National Junior Honor Society, student government? Can kids create their own clubs?
Yes, those clubs will still exist. They typically tend to roll out after the month of September. In a typical school year, the flyers will be posted around the school for kids to join. I'm anticipating that will all happen virtually, and there will be, so students should look out for those flyers being posted virtually to join the clubs that they might be interested in. And then Miss Lucy, and I believe it's Jessica Karp, who manage the NJHS club, they send out a lot of reminders, and they go through the applications and inform students and let them know what the agenda and the schedules are for both National Junior Honor Society and student government. And then any other club that happens, students do get flyers to invite them, or they'll get emails to invite them to join clubs. Or if they're interested in having a club, they can submit that request to Ms. Susan Tenner, who reviews them and approves of any clubs at Bugs. Susan, do you want to add anything else about clubs?
No, not really. Just that, yeah, I think it's a chance for kids to, student created clubs for them to start something that's, really of them and for them and sort of change with the times, based on what they need and want right now.
And there are bike racks. I just happened to glance at that question in the chat. There are bike racks outside the school.
Oh, so Ms. Kernan just posted, who runs the after school program, that will be available remotely, in case you didn't see that. Just, I know you said so many times, Lynette, could you just repeat the hours again?
So if we are in remote, the hours are 8:30 till 4 some days and 3 some days, depending on the individual schedule and group. So that's something you would have to look at the schedule once you get it to see what that day is for you. And hybrid, it is 8 o'clock. If you are Tuesday, Thursday, you are in the A group, your arrival time is 8 o'clock to the building. I did get a question about if you don't want to eat breakfast, do you have to arrive so early? You do have to arrive in time to get to your group and to go through all of the protocols, you know, the lining up. If we do have to take temperatures, I know there is going to be a form, Susan, right? For
Yeah, everyone will do, all of the families, you'll have to fill out a pre-screening questionnaire that asks you some pretty standard questions you've probably heard about in terms of temperature and travel and symptoms and not having taken fever reducing medicine and things like that. I'm sure you'll get really good at it and you'll fill it out every morning. If you didn't fill it out that morning, we check when the children arrive. If it has not been filled out, they will be pulled aside or asked to step aside into the right place to have their temperature checked and to go through that screening. We also will do random temperature checks as a sort of audit.
Right. So if you don't want to have breakfast at school, you don't have to arrive right at 8 o'clock, but you should arrive for this process to happen and for you to be in your advisory class by 8:30. So advisory is the first class of the day. It starts at 8:30. And again, depending on your schedule, you will be dismissed either at 3 o'clock or at 4 o'clock.
We are reaching the hour mark. So on the screen is our wonderful parent coordinators' contact information. I know within the chat, there were like questions specific to you and your child. So please email Julissa with any additional questions or anything you felt wasn't addressed.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us and for your thoughtful questions. We get it. This is a tough decision. It's an evolving situation. We'll continue to be in touch. And please email Julissa or call her as needed. And Julissa will also put sort of clarifications around the schedule and the dates for orientation, for the post-Labor Day period, and that kind of thing. So that's really clear, even though some of the dismissal times will change according, whether it's 4 or 3 will change for individual people, but they'll have a general sense they can start to plan on.
Yes. And again, we're trying to get the schedules out to everyone as soon as we can. We just have to make sure that that they're clean and as correct as possible with few or no mistakes. That is always my goal, no mistakes. But yeah, just be patient with us a little bit. We just want to get it right so that there's as little confusion as possible to start off the school year for students. There's enough confusion in the world as it is, and we want to not contribute to that as much as we can. And I just want to say, if you've sent me an email, I'm really trying to stay on top of my email. I get a lot of emails. That doesn't mean you shouldn't send me an email, but please bear with me. I will answer you as soon as I can.
Or I'll say for me to ping me back if you haven't heard.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Send it
Don't,
again.
don't,
Send it
yes,
again.
thank you.
At the top.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Take care. Thanks, Bug Staff.
Thank you. Hi, Tara. The meeting just ended. But we'll be posting the recording on our website later today or tomorrow with a